So this is a topic that actually for a long time was very, very sensitive for me. And if my younger self would have told me that, or if my younger self knew that I was going to talk about not being married and being over the age of 40, I think I would have freaked out because it's often been very sensitive. Many of you guys ask me, and rightfully so, are you married? Do you have children? What's your deal? Are you dating, etc.? Totally get it. Fair question, right? And I've always been transparent with you guys. I've never been married. I am currently single. I am dating, or rather, online dating and doing that whole online thing, which y'all know how I feel about that, but I'm trying. But no, I've never had children. And, the topic of marriage, especially when you're over 40 and you're a woman, is something that can be touchy, I think, for many of us. It certainly has been touchy for me. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my story and also tell you why I think this is really important for us all to talk about.
All right, party people, greetings and grace to you. It's your girl here, Clarity Speaks, popping into your timeline with another stream of my consciousness and another episode of A Reasonable Black Woman Reacts. And today I am reacting to a doctor by the name of Dr. Caudle, who did a video over a year ago that says, that's titled, I'm over 40 and I've never been married and this is why. And I want to react to this because it's been on my bucket list to kind of synthesize my thoughts about why I'm still single over 40. As like she says, we get a lot of questions, and as we go on into the video, she's going to give one of the main reasons why this has been such a bother to her, and that has been because she was afraid that people would think that something was wrong with her. She was crazy, she was hard to enjoy, she was, I guess, just someone that was not desirable once she actually got into a relationship, and she was discarded. And I can relate to that feeling, and I want to talk about it. But first, let's listen more to her.
First of all, like I said, never been married, but I have been engaged. I was engaged about 4 years or so ago, very short-lived. I ended the engagement. That was absolutely the right thing to do, and I'm happy that I did that. Never looked back.
So this is another point of similarity or parallel between my singleness story and Dr. Caudle's singleness story, particularly relative to what she just said about almost marrying someone and then later realizing that was not the move to make. Well over a decade ago, I was in a relationship with a young Christian man. We were in our late 20s and early 30s. I was around 31. He was around 28, 29 or something like that when we first got together, and we dated a year. We broke up, and about 2.5 years later, we circled back and got back together for about 2 months. And both of those times, marriage was on the menu. Our relationship was very much influenced by Reformed theology, purity culture, right? And that's a whole nother bag to unpack. But we were very influenced by that. So he was very intentional in his approach and very respectful. He was a smart, talented dude. So the second time around, we get back together and marriage is really on the menu. By this time, we're convinced this must be God. He circled us back. Me with my super spiritual self, I had been praying this whole time, believing in my heart he was really the man for me, and praying against him being in relationship with other people because I really believe he was my husband and all of that stuff. Never mind that once time in prayer, I heard, "You're not his wife, you're his ally." And what did I do, my super spiritual self? I breezed right on by that. "Devil, is that you?" But I still kept praying, though, because in my heart, I just was still uneasy. Nevertheless, we moving, right? We're moving. We're talking rings. We're talking moving. I'm literally moving out of my apartment, my cute little apartment, from my city to his city. I'm en route to do that. And within 2 months of doing all of that, it crashes and it burns. Which brings me to the top 3 reasons why it crashed and burned. We were incompatible. We had no business being together. I was his ally. I was his sister in Christ. I was his friend. Okay, and we were in a false start. We were premature. We were trying to define the relationship too early. And that trying to define the relationship too early was largely motivated by Christian dating purity culture, right? It was also motivated by him moving into higher ranks or visibility within the church plant that he had just, become a part of. And it was influenced by his own, insecurities in needing to have a sense of identity, stability, and significance among his peers and within himself. You know what I'm saying? And consequently, at the time, he was looking for a wife, right? And I was being auditioned for his ministry life fantasy, and I did not make the cut. And rightfully so. He should have been auditioning me. And had I known what I know now, I would have been auditioning him more. Because quiet as I kept it, I was gearing up to settle for some struggle love, okay? Which brings me to the red flags that I just breezed right by, because I was being super spiritual. I over spiritualized the situation, which is what typical Christian women do. I was caught up in my own little spiritual pride and my own little insecurities and vanity, that motivated me to attach to this gentleman in the way that I did, which was in a very unhealthy way, and kept me, pining away for him when God had already, let us break up peacefully, right? Then here we go. So I'm, trying to stay on his radar and trying to stay in touch because we were friends and he was cool, you know what I mean? And I liked him. And I really was his friend at heart, but I think I latched on because, again, of my emotional deficits. I grew up without a father. I grew up with a mom that was an alcoholic. So I had certain emotional deficits that I'm looking to fill. And again, being super spiritual, over spiritualizing the situation, just, got me a bit in trouble. But there were some red flags. For example, our premarital conversations revealed certain things about him that if I were who I was now, I would have known that this is not a candidate, right? He, just a series of things about his personality that didn't match with my personality. He was unstable financially, and he was just getting on his feet. And again, going back to the incompatibility, to give you an example, I lived very modestly, okay? And when he came and saw how I was living my lifestyle, to him, I was high maintenance in his mind compared to where he was coming from, right? And that just, again, shows the level of incompatibility. Also, the premarital conversations, what I had on my mind was things like, hey, under what circumstances do you find yourself most productive, right? What do you like to eat? Okay, your girl is over here trying to be the Titus 2 Proverbs 31 woman. I'm seriously about serving and submitting to my husband. So I'm wanting to find out, what you need so I can help you become better, because this is how I'm thinking. Iyanla, okay, you won't marry a bus driver. I was about to marry someone that, according to my friend group, was not on my level. Okay, my friends would ask me, like, girl, why are you entertaining these Christian guys in the Christian hip hop community, girl? You can do better. Like, what are you doing? And so that gives you an idea of what my mindset was of me ready to work with someone. Why? Because nobody's perfect, and I'm going to be, Christ-like with them and all these things. But never mind, did I get that same thoughtfulness in return, right? Because these were the questions he were asking me. Look, girl, I was driving a BMW, a paid for 10-year-old BMW, okay? And I was a real estate agent at the time. And so his questions for me and concern for me was, we can't drive a BMW because I don't want to appear to be living above the people that I'm ministering to. Again, I guess 10 years old and it is paid for. He presented no other alternative other than basically, we don't take the bus because we living in the city. We don't need a car. Then he wanted to make sure that I did not expect to receive a diamond ring as an engagement ring, because he was concerned about the blood diamond and the people in Africa in the blood diamond trade. And so I need not expect that. Those were the conversations that he was having with me that suggested that he was not that into me. He didn't know me. He didn't ask me enough questions. I was asking him more questions than he was asking me, because had he asked me more questions, he would have known that my little BMW was always parked in the worst parts of Atlanta because I was doing mercy ministry there. Those people have ridden in my car because I was taking them on errands. I was serving them, right? He knew this on a surface level, but he didn't know the depths to which I was doing certain things. And so all this is hindsight, by the way. During that time, I'm just absorbing it. I'm just moving. I'm in a very super spiritual mode, and it was nothing but the grace of God answering my continual prayer, and probably his and whoever else, that this is not the situation that I have for you, girl. This is not the highest and best I have for you, and you're not the highest and best for him. And both of us, in my opinion, were emotionally immature, a bit spiritually immature. Even though we were doctrinally mature and sound and correct, we were still immature in many respects. And again, that relationship, it was just premature. We were defining it and moving too quickly, in my opinion. So let that be a cautionary tale to you young women, you young Christian women especially. Okay, so that's that on that.
Okay, so that is, I was engaged once. I've never had children, but I have frozen my eggs before I turned 40. Actually, my parents, it was my parents actually who encouraged me to freeze my eggs. And I remember being like completely offended by them saying it. I was like, what, you think I can't find no man? What, you think I can't get no man? What you trying to say? I was so offended. I was like, what? And I literally talked to some of my girlfriends telling them this story, like, you'll never believe what my parents told me to do. And they were like, oh yeah, I've frozen my eggs. And I was like, what, huh? Come again? Anyway, long story short, I've done a video on that. So ladies and gentlemen, for the ladies in your life, take a look at that. Egg freezing is really a thing, and it's an important thing for many of us.
So this is the part where Dr. Caudle and my story deviates a bit, likely based on worldview, because my worldview is biblical, and consequently freezing my eggs has never been on my radar as an option, simply because it's just way too close to playing God for me, right? That is something super divine, and it's just taking matters into my own hands in a way that I'm uncomfortable with, knowing what I know about God, knowing what I know about the natural order of things, right? That's just my conviction. Because, having said that, I am very sensitive to the fact that science has come a long way. Couples are infertile for reasons beyond their control. Women can't carry a baby to term. They may have certain disorders or illnesses that won't allow that, and freezing eggs and surrogacy, is an option, right? And I am aware that people have gone through this process, have had healthy kids, and have not had any sort of, emotional tax on their family as a result of, egg freezing, or not so much egg freezing. I'm speaking more towards surrogacy, because surrogacy seems to be the new thing, especially with celebrities these days or wealthy people, and that part of it too seems to bring with it extra emotional tax to a person individually, as well as to a relationship, right? Especially if, say, for example, a husband is married to a modern woman who insists upon going this route because she don't want to put any more wear and tear on her body for vain reasons, or vice versa. A husband is wanting his wife who can't have kids, to use a surrogate because he wants so bad to have a biological child to carry on his name. Any number of reasons why people are doing this that are outside of a life or death medical scope, right? That's where I would be more empathetic to it and sympathetic to it and understanding of it, and seeing it as something possibly God could use, because I will not dare condescend to go way above my pay grade and suggest that God cannot and is not using these things for his glory and to bless people who want kids. But just my line of thinking is like, it's just way too close to playing God with something so divine. And when you think about, for example, from in a surrogacy situation relative to this emotional tax that I'd be concerned about is, what are the quiet emotions? How many people are really suffering quietly because of this decision that they didn't really want to make because, again, a spouse kind of pressured them into doing it, And once that child comes, I'm sure a lot of that, resentment or anger or whatever kind of goes away because the child is here. And what's the choice? Love it. Kids often are lovable, right? So you're still loving this child, even though, it came through, not through the wife's womb, but it is her egg, it is your sperm. Okay, however it got here. But if that is the case, that you're still going to have to push through and love anyway, why not adopt? People are loving adopted kids that they've never carried, just like they were their own as well. So that would be more of my option, just to, if I were married and were faced with that, infertility or whatever, I just adopt. It's just, to me, less emotional tax.
I pay egg rent every year, but I've never had children, etc. So I know a lot of you are probably like, well, why have you ever never been married? Let me first start out by just like real talk. I think one of the hardest things about never having been married, being over the age of 40, etc., is I've always been afraid of what people think about that. And maybe it's not the thing you're thinking about, right? There is a lot of societal pressure to be married, to have children, especially in certain cultures, in certain parts of the world, etc. So that exists. But interestingly enough, my parents never put a lot of pressure on me to get married and procreate, have children. In fact, sometimes I wish they put more pressure on me. Maybe I would have made it more a priority, but I don't blame this on them. I've always been worried about the stigma that I have always felt attached to it. My younger brother is married with a beautiful wife and a beautiful family. And my brother, I've always looked to for guidance and advice. I always say, like, he was like the normal one, the one with a lot of common sense between the two of us. And I always used to, I don't know, I would talk to him about things. I was always worried about people thinking there must be something wrong with me because I'm unmarried and over the age of 40. I mean, okay, let's just be real. You see someone, you're like, why aren't they married? What's wrong with them? What's their problem? There must be something. She crazy. Right?
Now, how about that? Who over 35 out here that's single can relate to what she just said? If I'm being honest, she was spot on, and she helped me to kind of identify the one thing that gives me concern about being single beyond 40, and that is simply being opening myself up to being misinterpreted or mischaracterized because of it, right? I cannot tell you how many times I have had to answer this question, even recently, and I'm going to share in my testimony a couple conversations that I've had with some folks. But people ask you this with a side eye, like, is something wrong with you? And it also humbles you, that question, because you now have to look in the mirror and remember all the times that you were quick to judge someone. For example, men over a certain age, maybe over 40 or 50, who've never been married. You're looking at them with the side eye, right? Because it's normal for women nowadays to be older and not married, but a man to be past 40 and never married, you're looking at him like, are you gay? Are you irresponsible? Are you hard to enjoy and hard to get along with? Are you a difficult person? So it can go both ways, but it makes me want to take my time and nuance a little bit, and to ask some probing questions to verify if what I am perceiving is actually reality. Because to me, I understand to most people, perception is reality. But if you are mature, you know that perception is not reality. And smart people will probe what they perceive to make certain that it is in keeping with reality, because a lot of people are walking around here living in their perception and all sorts of self-deception and arrogance and all of that, because they won't humble themselves to find out accurate information about, be it a person or world events, you name it. But anyway, okay, so I'm going to begin my testimony here with a text message conversation that I had almost a year ago, next month, August the 2nd, 2022. It is between myself and a former male coworker who is happily married, who I had reached out to because I had finished school 3 months prior, and I was reaching out to say, hey, I'm done with school and I'm looking for employment opportunities. He had moved to another city in North Carolina, and I was just, again, reaching out and updating him on everything. And all of that. Now, within this text message, because while we worked together, we would have a lot of back and forth fun banter over politics, right? Because we were on the opposite end of the political spectrum. And so he was joking with me saying, hey, I'm a Republican now and la, 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 la. So we had some banter back and forth about that. Then he hits me with this question out of the blue. He says, personal question, then all caps. Why are you still single? And then I say, where did that come from? You trying to hook me up? How do you know I'm still single, by the way? Because I hadn't seen him in years by this point. And in a couple years by this point. And I said, now, you know that's going to take a phone conversation because, there's a lot to unpack here in this text. And so he responds and says, you're smart, you're beautiful, and you're wholesome. It doesn't add up. Now, again, in keeping with Dr. Caudle's observation and, about us being, us single women over a certain age feeling kind of, vigilant, if you will, when people are asking us, why are you still single? Because we're wondering what they're thinking about why we're still single. So I hit him with, hey, I'm not gay, if that's what you're thinking, right? Because we got to preempt what we think that they're thinking about us being single still. So he laughed out loud and he said, you sure? And then I said, yes, I'm positive. I said, I do have a couple theories why I'm still single, although I can't give you a definitive answer because, we would have to do a whole retrospective with all of my exes to get the data. You know what I'm saying? And right now that juice ain't worth the squeeze. So all I have is my theories, So I said I have a 30,000 feet level spiritual theory, and then I have a mainstream earthly level theory, right, as to why I'm still single. And so I ran that down, and I basically said my natural theory is for a fair answer, you would have to track down the guys who dated me and ask them why they never proposed to me. I think they didn't propose because we were not compatible. And I said my second natural theory is my location. Right. And I said, I'm an extraordinary introvert. I've been practicing my faith seriously for, several years, which decreases the pool of men for me. Then I'm politically conservative, which makes me even more attractive to most black men. OK, I said after they learned that I'm conservative, I kind of lose my appeal, however attractive they may have thought I was. And then I said the spiritual theory trumps all of the above. And I said I had a huge assignment to care for my family. And now I believe if I would have been in a relationship before the passing of my family members that I was taking care of, it would have been difficult and stressful for me and that relationship. And my family had a dysfunction and a toxicity that only I could tolerate. And then he responds and says, all are fair assessments. He said, I think you deserve a good man in your life. I really believe your life will go from good to great with the right companion. And I want that for you, my friend. That really warmed my heart. And I actually believe that too. And that is one of the reasons why I am still single, because I really believe that I'm waiting for the right companion, right? I want the right companion because I believe my life will go from good to great. I'm not trying to, be worse than what I am, right? If you're coming into my life, you're going to need to be an improvement. You're going to need to improve my life, and I'm going to need to be improving your life, right? To make it worth your while to even pursue me. So if I'm waiting for anything, I'm waiting for that. So that was a conversation between myself and this gentleman. And again, it was very encouraging because many black men are of the Kevin Samuels persuasion. Okay, which I don't have a problem with Kevin Samuels. Actually, I mentioned Kevin Samuels in this text thread when he gave me that compliment. I said, really? You think that, I'm still in the game? I said, according to Kevin Samuels, okay, my sexual market value is near zero. I'm pushing 50. I've never been married. I don't have any kids, so my sexual market value is gone. And matter of fact, the only thing that I do have going for me is the fact that I have never been married. I don't have any kids, and I just have a slightly used vagina. Anyway, but that was the end of the conversation. But that gives you some insight on partly some of the reasons why I think I'm still single. But again, only God really knows. And that brings me to the next point I want to make. All right, let's put our thinking caps on and explore my little 30,000 feet spiritual level theory as to why I think I'm still single. And I do believe that the spiritual realm trumps everything that's going on here pragmatically in the natural. And all of the natural reasons that I enumerated and can enumerate it all falls under this canopy here. So let's begin by asking some high-level questions. Is there a point, a direction to human history? Is it just a random, meaningless combination of undirected events? Is it a cycle, fated to repeat itself endlessly? Or is there a God in heaven who directs human events, always moving to a final resolution and fulfillment? Our answer to this question influences everything in our lives. So for me to answer the question why I'm still single, we have to ask the question, who is in control of human events? And for me, the answer to that is God. God is in control of human events. Therefore, if we take a lens, say my life is a lens, or we look at my life through a lens, right? We zoom out at the macro level, then I have to conclude that I'm still single because God has set in motion a series of events that suggest to me that marriage is not an experience He felt I needed up to this point. It is as simple as that. When someone asks me why I'm still single and they want my true blue answer, because that's the best answer that I can give, because truly, like I said, I haven't done a retrospective with the guys to get the data why they didn't propose. I can't read their minds. I only am reading even the things that I said earlier in the video about what I suspected from my that relationship that I described. That's my perception of things. You feel me? So, but what I do know is that there is a God in heaven who's controlling events, and I do know that I have given my life to this God, and I do know I have surrendered every single nook and cranny, as far as I can tell up to date, of my life to God, especially this area. So therefore, it must not be an experience He felt I need. And I got to be okay with that. I'm actually very much okay with that. So the few relationships that I've been in, the way that they ended, again, continues to give me the feedback that suggests to me that God's hand was at work in those experiences, bringing them to an end because that was not His highest and best for me. So now with that spiritual reason in mind, let's zoom back into the practical, pragmatic level of my life and those practical everyday reasons why I'm still single that I enumerated earlier. My location, I live right now in a rural area. I'm introverted. I'm a house body. I love being in the house. I enjoy being alone, stuff like that. I just don't have a huge social life or whatnot. Again, I'm politically conservative. I'm seriously a Christian. What else? Some of these other pragmatic reasons. Unfortunately, even what I just said is still not sufficient for most people. Somebody is triggered right now at this long analysis as to why I'm still single. And I'm sure somebody is somewhere saying, oh, child, it don't take all that. Look at you. Oh, she just trusting in her big old granddaddy in the sky. Jesus is her consolation prize because she ain't got no man. Oh, it's such a coping mechanism, girl. She just coping. This is just how she got to cope and live with herself being single because she's going to, die alone with her cats. Okay? First of all, I don't like cats. I despise cats. I think they're the most selfish creatures on the planet. And second, I'm not afraid to die alone, okay? That does not scare me, you Kevin Samuel Red Pill folks, okay? That does not scare me one bit, and I won't even go down that rabbit trail. But my point here is to say, and what's discouraging about these conversations and why I stay away from them, and why I said, you know what, I want to do a video, speak on this thing and codify it, and anybody ask me why I'm single, I'm gonna shoot them this video. They can listen, and if they feeling it and they connect with me and it resonates and they're dude, then I'll know that that's a further clue that they might be from God and can handle me. Now with that in mind, there is a narrative or mindset out there among some that say, hey, you are open to being in a relationship. You would desire, you're welcoming of a relationship. You would like to possibly be in one. So what are you doing to, make that happen? What are you doing to position yourself and to be intentional to ensure that you get into a relationship? My answer would be, I am praying. Okay. But for some, that is insufficient. That is, too heavenly bound, earthly good type of thing. And I do agree. Faith without works is dead. However, my faith level is suggesting that as I pray and I go about the course of my day, that God is big enough to present my feet or lead my feet in the direction of my husband, and an interaction would ensue, and then we would discover one another and it be on and popping. That's kind of like my thinking after having gotten into the dating pool and done all these things, because that particular model sets women up, and even men, to make poor choices and to get into the social busybody aspect and go out with these high anticipation and expectations that are rooted in nothing spiritual, but rooted only in your selfishness and your selfish desires. And that again puts you in a position to make a poor choice whereby you will end up regretting. And I see women doing that and have done that all the time. They're somewhere wilting in their marriages, or wilting in the relationship, or somewhere full of regret, because they didn't have, they took that sort of counsel. And again, the other caveat to that is why I can't accept that advice is because people act like human beings have 100% control over every single outcome in their lives. Like, that's ridiculous. We as human beings, we could eat healthy and still get sick, right? So in other words, we as human beings, yes, have control over most things of our lives via our choices, right? And if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say maybe 70 to 95%, or maybe even 99% of things that happen in our lives, we have control based on the decisions that we make. But when it comes to relationship, we're forgetting that outcome depends on another person. It is not like me, preparing myself, going to school, getting educated, and going for a job. And even that still requires, in my opinion, some divine assistance. Okay, and some divine strategy, positioning, and giving me favor. Okay, when I'm in competition with thousands of applicants, and in that realm, you can again, if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. And I guess that is what these people are counseling, women to do relative to positioning themselves. But again, this is to me dangerous, because it is setting women up to be sitting ducks, to be deceived and exploited and lied to and taken advantage of, and men as well, because we are moving in that energy motivated by self-centeredness. It's nothing divine about doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's something else if you were led of God to do that, but and that outcome would be more than likely favorable. Okay, if God is putting you up to that or giving you that strategy. But I'm depending on a divine strategy, which starts with prayer and having a faith level high enough to believe that God will lead my feet to that individual, and we will connect, and it will be on and popping. There's risk with everything. And even then, that doesn't guarantee me a forever relationship. It depends on, a number of things that is above my pay grade now to even try to speculate on. But I do know this, the whole strategy of, girl, basically you telling me to become a social busybody. And then it's going to be pretty much like marketing, right? Or like sales. Okay, make 50,000 cold calls, and about 3% of them you're gonna get, and then you go on those dates, and you keep going and you keep going. That's, some people have the energy for that, and maybe that's working for most people, and I can see how men would see it that way. But women, it's not for us to pursue. Okay, we are to be pursued, and yes, we are to position ourselves, and yes, we are to, be strategic about where we place ourselves. But again, my faith level is just a little bit different, and so that's my thinking on that. Yeah, but as a Christian woman in trying to date, and you want to give people a chance, especially if you're on these dating apps or whatever, you don't know if someone is a Christian for real or not. Many of them, if you're a Christian woman, you get matched with someone that says they're Christian, you go out and you start having this conversation, and you start telling them your story, right? Why you're still single. You tell them the truth of what I'm just saying here now. And I've been shocked at how people don't believe you. how these men don't believe women these days, or you're too good to be true, or there's this whole narrative about women lying about their body count, and all of these things, and then that's why I stopped dating apps and things like that, because these people who they're imposters. They're not real Christian men that are approaching you as they're claiming themselves to be, because if they did, they would resonate. They would understand what I'm saying would make sense, and they would hopefully have a similar story if they're still single or divorced or something like that. Which brings me to my final point and observation as when I was out there in the dating pool, and what I've concluded, and the thing that has made me jump out of that dating pool and just kind of sit on the sideline and wait for God to put me back in there. The men that I've met thus far do not fear God to the same level that I fear God. That is a deal breaker for me. You saying that you go to church or you believe in God, but I don't see any fruit of that in your lifestyle or in your choices, right? That's a no for me. And I'm not going to waste your time, and I'm not going to fool myself, But if I could name one reason why the men that have approached me, as kind and as awesome as they were as just men, they didn't give me the indication that their fear of God was compatible with my fear of God. What do I mean by that? Well, let me give you an example. A man who fears God, a lot of women spend a lot of time talking about, he cheating, if he cheat on me, I'm going to leave him, or worried about a man cheating on him. Well, the man that I'm looking for is so accountable to God that cheating on me is not going to be an option for him, because he's concerned about getting in trouble with God, not with me. And furthermore, I'm so trusting of him that I don't need to be going through his phone, asking him 11 times, where he at, calling him all night, 30 times when he's out with his friends or haven't come home. I don't feel the need to do that, because if God is up and watching him, both of us don't need to be up. I'm gonna go to sleep and trust God. I'm gonna pray like I've been doing, and God will reveal to me if this man is unfaithful to me. And that man, if he fears God, he's going to know that my wife has a relationship with God. That is the most valuable asset that she brought to this marriage and to this relationship, is her prayer life and her relationship with God. So therefore, if I'm out here on some bull, God is going to inform her. But more than that, I'm not going to be out here on no bull, because God is my first accountability partner, and I do not have time to be at odds with God. That's what I'm talking about when I say I'm looking for a man who has that level of faith and relationship and depth with God. Few men have that today. And that is the leading reason why I'm still single. Until next time, deuces.